the system of intelligence is going to be able to talk to our CRM data. It's going to talk to all of the go-to-market data that's in our Snowflake database.
Right.
And then what it's going to do is it's going to operationalize that at kind of a row level. It will go execute that and say, is this right? Is this outcome the outcome that I am seeking?
Right.
Because it knows you, it knows who you are, it knows your customer, right? And so the Jedi Masters of the CROs that will become the Jedi Masters are the ones that know what questions to ask and why, because when the systems are all connected, the most powerful person won't be the first chair violinist, it will be the conductor.
This episode is brought to you by TestBox.
Jordan, I'm excited to have you. I was thinking about you recently because I was hosting a roundtable with a number of CROs, and I asked the question about go-to-market engineering, and I got actually a lot of blank stares. And I was like, wow, I am surprised that a lot of people don't know what this is right now.
Wait, they haven't heard the word?
They didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it meant. So I was like, you know what? Like, I got to get Jordan on camera. I got to talk to Jordan. I got to call Jordan. So I'll tell this fun fact. I don't know if my wife knows this story, but you should tell the story.
No, you tell the story. It's better because no one's going to believe it if I say it.
That's the funny part. Nobody believes it. Is that I think you're the first person outside of my wife to know my daughter's name, because we were at actually SaaStr last fall, and you knew that I was having a kid the next month.
No, I asked, we didn't know, and I think that it was before you had shared with anyone, and we were talking about kids, and you were like, no one knows, don't say anything.
Yeah.
We have a kid,
and then you were like, oh, you should name her Jordan. Jordan's a great name for a girl, and I looked at you with a blank stare, and was like, dude, that's her name.
Well, okay, this is how you know I'm a LinkedIn influencer. That's the most narcissistic thing that I could have said, to be like,
100%.
100%. I'm like, have I got a good stock tip for you? Yeah.
And the best part about that is I think you've told multiple people, because people have been like, did Jordan really know your daughter's name? I was like, yes, he did. So
well,
that was awesome. So I always think that's a funny story. I think about you every time. I'm like, oh man, this guy. So tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Because you had a relationship with TestBox, like previously. It's how I got to know you.
Yeah.
But tell me about yourself, a little bit about what you're doing now.
Well, I have been doing growth since 2016, running my company since 2020, and we are kind of the original go-to-market engineers.
Yeah.
And the way that I think about this is, if go-to-market leaders don't really know what their sales reps are doing, but if they did, they would find out that they do a lot of research, and that research is generally haphazard. And no knock to the SDRs; it's just the nature of the job. And they do a lot of research. So even before AI, they're looking at the company website, they're looking at things like the financials, sometimes they're going to the 10Ks, they may be looking at other sort of bespoke data sources, they're reading through LinkedIn profiles, kind of a massive amount of investigation, so that generally they can send 2 sentences. And it turns out that actually there's a lot of gold in them, their hills. But the problem is that because at the execution layer, the strategic layer has been hire people, fire the ones that don't work, have them churn out, and then there's going to be some magical unicorns down here that we don't know how they do it, but they're really good at it.
Yeah.
And so my company is really created because that gap is so wide between sales and marketing leadership and what the SDRs are doing on the ground. And so really, my goal has always been to systematize the manual labor here. And we've done this for a long time before AI, building scrapers and tools and stuff. So we did a lot of this with TestBox to be able to determine things like, well, what are our companies true PLG companies, right? What sort of go-to-market motion they have? What are the count of sales engineers that they have at their, what is the velocity of sales engineers that they are hiring, right? What is the nature of the product? How technical is it, right? And so these are all questions that if you didn't have to think about Zoom in for an Apollo, and you instead ask a different question, which is, if Sam woke up in the morning with his beautiful Australian accent, I'm not convinced it's real, but if he was like, "Hi guys," no, I'm not gonna do it. And he said, what would be the perfect information that I would need to know if a customer was a great fit for TestBox? None of that stuff is in ZoomInfo, right? And so my company was created to basically answer that question.
Wow.
So it's bespoke data at scale.
Yeah, amazing. What did you do prior to starting your own company and doing this since 2016? I'm curious.
I got fired from a lot of places.
Really?
Yeah, I was really good at that, actually. I mean, if that was a job,
Yeah.
if losing your job was a job, I'd be,
Okay, why,
like-
why is that? What?
well, I'm very opinionated about what I believe. And also I have no half measures. I don't take direction really well. And so it turns out that's not really good for employment status, right? Like, it's like what the CEO says is the thing that's right, even if it's wrong.
Right.
And so I think that just didn't really sit well with me. And I had an opinion about how I wanted things to be done. And also that opinion, when it is wrong, I want to suffer it because the suffering is the education.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so I think that I really just couldn't exist in a environment where I didn't have the opportunity to try the most audacious thing that I could think of
Right.
and learn about why that was a bad idea. So it's the humility circle is vicious and wonderful as a founder.
Yeah.
Because you just have to test things, and when they don't work, the best place that you have to look is the mirror.
Yeah. Man, love that. That's great. Well, and look, you've done a tremendous job over the last decade on this.
Thank
And I feel like you're having your moment, right? Because like as you said, the original go-to-market engineer, like you've been doing this for quite some time, and now it's getting attention. And so I think this is why I'm like, well, how do we make sure that when somebody watches today's episode, they really get an understanding of what this role is and how it can have impact? So I think the place I want to start is kind of what I prefaced in the beginning is I want your definition of what go-to-market engineering is.
Well, let's start with a reason that you would need one versus the thing itself, because people get into tools a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I have to buy this tool, right? Now Clay is that tool. I have to buy Clay. And it's like, well, why? It's like, I don't know. Someone said I had to buy this thing. Like, and that's
100%.
Yeah. I mean, look, Clay's a great tool. I love Clay. I'm an investor advisor there, user since 2020. But really the reason that we need something like a go-to-market engineer is that we need moats, especially in the AI world. And moats have to be dramatically different from, I mean, the definition of a moat is something that is your competitors, it's hard for them to cross, essentially.
Right.
And if you think about the best sort of moat for go-to-market is a data moat. And in the past, we haven't needed those. We bought from ZoomInfo, and we would try to edit our message a little bit, and we would use tools, sales engagement platforms, and that it was Ready Player One. It was first to the cup, right?
Yeah.
Who could send the most amount of emails at the highest volume? And customers would.
Wow.
It's true. I mean, right? And the people that would respond are like, well, I don't need exactly that, but so over time, you've had to get narrower and narrower and narrower. The problem is that we don't have great data to narrow things. And so we're trying to write ourselves out of the bottom of a well, and that doesn't work, right?
Right.
And so what is our bucket on a string? Well, that's really the thing that the go-to-market engineer is the one that's going to pull that bucket up for you. And the way that they're going to do that is take all of that bespoke data that at the organization really only exists at the SDR or the AE level. Who are the people that on the ground that get fired if they don't send great messages? And not about what high school that you went to, or I always joke, it's like the play that people are still running today, which is like a little embarrassing. Like, I saw you raised money. I like money. Can I have your money?
Yeah.
Right? That's
exactly.
And it's like, you can ride around that, but that's the message, right? It's like, well, when people raise money, it's like, well, when they, this X or Y revenue, right? So the reason that you need to go to market engineer is that, and actually, if you've used ChatGPT and if you've clicked on deep research, it's a wonderful button.
Wonderful button.
Wonderful button. Great button. So the greatest button. So we just cut that out. Let me talk to the camera. Yeah. So basically, it will go and do all of this research. And so we had talked a little bit before the cameras were rolling about taking two sides of a marketplace and finding good fits. And so for one of the companies that I had worked with, they wanted to say, this is the best, you're undergoing this change in your organization. This is the best partner to help you with that change. And deep research found people that were undergoing that change, a mergers and acquisition in this case, and then said, well, what are the best partners to help you with X or Y or Z problem that I found that you're engaging with in the merger and acquisition? And you're like, these are the best. We've looked at the entire Microsoft partner directory, and these are the top 3. Here's their contact information. Here's their email.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the go-to-market engineer's job is to help you answer the question of, if either our prospects or our customers had, if we only had to answer this question, if you only had to work for one customer and every day your entire team was just dedicated, all of your engineering resources, your product resources, was dedicated to providing them with all of your structured knowledge, all the structured knowledge on the web, what would you give them? What would you provide to them? What would make their experience 10 times better?
Right.
And once we answer that question, the go-to-market engineer's job is to operationalize the answer to that question.
Yeah. Oof.
And so we have a harder problem, which is not a tools problem. It is not a go-to-market engineer problem. It's not a Clay problem. It is a so what problem.
Yeah.
And that's the question we need to answer.
What an answer. That was amazing. So there's so many things to unpack there, but I want to just kind of dive right into the question that I hear the most, which is, well, what's the difference between go-to-market engineering and RevOps? And, I don't think that I've been able to articulate that answer well enough. And so I'm just like, give me that soundbite, like, what is the difference?
Well, RevOps traditionally has been I think of it more as like CRM maintenance. Like, my job is to make sure that if the business decides to purchase an item, I have to make sure that there's operations to make sure that that thing that you have bought is effective, that it's integrating with our data well, right? And they're not drivers of business strategy, they are consumers of business strategy. They take the business strategy and operationalize it.
Yeah.
Go-to-market engineers are doing something a little bit different. And now, more so than ever, someone without any technical expertise can go do programmatic research, can go send an AI agent out in the world to research things, and can do even more than that, can go scrape websites.
Right.
One of my customers sells into arborists, and there's a website called Trees Are Good. Great name. It's a great name. What should we call it? Like, trees. What else? Good. Trees are good. And so they wanted to be able to say, like, well, we want to understand all the arborists in the world.
Fun.
And so a RevOps person wouldn't go do that. A go-to-market engineer would.
Right.
So it's database origination.
Okay.
It is connecting the strategy to the data, and it is the orchestration of that into channels. And so we may partner with RevOps to be like, and a go-to-market engineer may do things like CRM enrichment, et cetera. But in the best case, you have a go-to-market engineer that's partnered with a RevOps person to say, there's a bunch of other things in your stack that you're going to need to manage. A RevOps person, go-to-market engineer, you're going to take stuff from outside of the walls, and you're going to determine what those things are.
Right.
And then together, you're going to push those out into channels.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
LinkedIn automation, cold email, like ads even now. And so that's kind of, they sit at a little bit of a strategic layer.
Right.
I don't know if it's above, but it's a different level.
It's a different level.
And the best go-to-market engineers are trying to be a translation layer between what the sales reps do today, what the executives know about the market, and their job is to operationalize that.
Amazing. Are there that many go-to-market engineers out there right now?
No, there just aren't.
Yeah, is that, and that's what I've been asking myself, right? Because, okay, great, this sounds really interesting. There's got to be a talent gap, right? So is there a place that people are going that's, hey, this is how I learned go-to-market engineering? Like, how does someone get started, right? If I'm a CRO, VP of sales, and I'm like, wow, I really need to do this, and like Jordan just convinced me it's different than RevOps, where do I start? Like, from a talent perspective?
Maybe I would say that you don't. Hello, Cameron. So, no, I mean, I think that this is the same sort of tool thinking, which is I need a go-to-market engineer. Yeah. I think that we have some soul searching to do first, which is to what end? And so the first thing you need to do is not create a job description, right? It's to go sit down with your sellers and say, let me watch you prospect.
Amazing.
And so the question I would say is that, and this is, any good CRL should ask this question, all of your SDRs, all of your AEs are fired tomorrow and you are forced to prospect to a day. What do you do?
Yeah.
So go do that.
Yeah.
Go do that, because we were talking a little bit about before we filmed here, is that there's going to be a gigantic collapse of the disgusting middle.
Yeah.
which is not this part of me. It's, yeah. I mean, I'm working on this, but where there's the strategy layer and there's this execution layer, and all of the UX garbage and that's all going away. And so the problem is that a go-to-market engineer is maybe the jelly on the center, but if you don't understand the two sides of the bread, and right now the sales leadership understands the top piece of the bread, but they don't really understand the jelly in the middle, and they certainly haven't closed the gap here at the bottom slice of the bread. And so go do that. Because you can't ask someone to automate what you don't understand and what you don't know. And you need to close that. And by the way, this is not about the tools. It's not about AI. It's not about any of that shit. It's just that AI is going to make you look more embarrassed if you don't know exactly what you want to automate and why.
I love that.
And the sales reps and the A's have most of that answer today.
Yeah. Phenomenal response. And this is what Craig Rosenberg and I just talked about, right? We just talked about that, like, leaders need to
What
go
a great
get
name, Craig Rosenberg.
It's great. Yeah, you got to go get hands-on. You got to be a doer, right? And you got to get in there. And there's too many, leadership folks that are disconnected from the field, right? They're running the old playbook. They don't actually know the customer journey. They don't actually know the customer experience. They don't actually know what steps need to happen to meet their buyer where they're at, right? And so I think, you've identified hey, how do we find the right buyers? But then it's like, how do we actually sell to the right buyers and deliver value to the right buyers, and then actually deliver that value after the post-signature?
Yeah, and I have a framework here that has helped, and I think the challenge is we're trying to bolt new technology onto old methodologies.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
And so I talk about this like putting a legless robot on a horse. The thing still shits and you get nowhere faster, right? And so don't cut that. And so when you do that, the problem is that you don't really understand what is the purpose of AI. And so the one thing that I do to evaluate any new AI go-to-market tool, especially that's like in the outbound space, whatever, it's like, show me the copy. And if I can see the copy, I know instantly that there's no great data behind it. They're just letting the large language models invent things. So our current model today, and this may sound familiar to you, is account selection. You pick accounts. And how do you pick 10 to 50 employees and X amount of revenue? Once you picked accounts, you write persona level messages. Here's what the VPs of sale are going to care about. Then you go find contacts. So you use a tool like ZoomInfo, Apollo, or Clay, or Full Enrich. Once you do that, you have the SDRs personalized, and we'll get back to that in a second. And then you scale, you just deploy it in outreach, right? And so we're trying to bolt AI on top of this. And so on the account selection side, it's like, I'm gonna sell you signals. When someone changed a job, when someone, and the only signal that's really ever worked is the champion movement. Because your competitors can't copy it.
Right.
And that became commoditized really quickly, right? So these signals really, you can instantly evaluate that they're total garbage, because the instant a product gets worse, the more people use it, the product is shit. And so if you sell the same signal to someone else, right? Like it's the just raised, I saw you raise money.
Right.
The persona level messages, we haven't seen a lot of innovation here. Tools like Winter, WYNTER, are really good for understanding a little bit more. I have a tool called Sherlock that can take all your gong calls and help you kind of understand your customers a little bit better. Contacts, there has been some innovation here. So tools like Clay and Full Enrich are trying to close this gap, running waterfalls. SDR personalization, really you've seen like icebreaker lines, or it's like, the craziest one that I saw was someone made a web page about me, jordancrawford.life. It's not around anymore, but you can go to archive.org and see it. And they're like, Jordan Crawford, a spectacular journey of innovation and exploration. And I was like, I went to the moon? And so the problem is that we're just trying to bolt. So I have a different approach here. And I think that revenue leaders really are best to think about this from the customer backwards. So my approach is, first, you need to identify a segment. What is your best performing segment and why? And this is not X amount of revenue, et cetera. And tightly connected with that are what data define this segment. Now, generally, it's 2 to 5 heuristics that imply tension, right? And so in TestBox case, for example, it might be the ratio of sales engineers to total employees, okay? And it might also be a hiring there, right? So that's like one piece of this sort of tension brand. And on the other side, it might be that you see declining deals. So let's say that in case you were selling to someone that the technology showed up on the website, you might look at built with, and you could look at drift.com, for example, and you see after the acquisition, just everyone started uninstalling Drift, right? And so you can kind of understand, well, what companies are growing through high churn or like some proxy for lengthening sales times multiplied by who is trying to throw sales engineers in this problem. Well, that implies tension.
Yeah.
So you have a great segment and you have great data.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing is now there's a message.
Yeah.
And the message is just literally redescribing the targeting. The list is the message, is what I say, which is like, because I have targeted you for all the things I know about my customers, when they're in this exact situation, this is what they're. And I have one other sort of, I've had one innovation in the last 5 years, and I'll talk about it, and it exists in this messaging section. Then you can use AI to channelize that message, which means that AI is not going and it's not finding stuff on the web randomly. All it's doing is reformatting that message for different channels. It's reformatting it for a cold email, for a LinkedIn. You can run ads. And because remember, the data is all the people too, so we know who we're targeting. So we don't have to, there's no intent, there's no de-anonymization of the website, there's none of that crap, right? I made a choice about why you were here, and I know, and I can look at every single person on that list, and I know why they're on this list. And the way you scale is you do it segment by segment. Horizontal companies have a hard time doing this.
100%.
Vertical companies have a much easier time because they have one ICP. And I have one more innovation on the messaging side, which is something I call PVP, a permissionless value prop. And that is when you can combine unique data insights to deliver a message that is independently valuable to the prospect. So, like, let me give you an example here. A company called Texada, they basically help you manage your large construction equipment. So if you have a big ass crane, and so when you have a big ass crane, you have to put wide loads on those big ass cranes when you move them around, right? And it turns out you have to file a permit with the Texas Department of Transit, right? You got to tell Texas that I'm moving a big ass thing in a big ass state to a big ass job site. So that's on the permit app. I'm making that as on the permit application. So that means now I know that you have a large crane, and I know its utilization rate. So I know if it's moving or not. So I have two great pieces of information, but there is another piece of data here that would make that even more valuable. And that is building permit information. So if you're installing a wind turbine, turns out wind turbines need big ass cranes. Because you got to lift that thing up, right? So now I know that you have a crane. I know that crane is not being in use, and I know someone that needs that crane. So I can send a message like, James, is your Liebenhauser 5575? It's like, I don't know, it's one of the brand names. Something. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. I'm right. Don't Google it. It's not being used according to the Texas Department of Transit. That it's idle right now. And Maxwell Construction down the street. Max at Maxwell Construction, 507-3508-1287 is his phone number. He has a permit, a building permit to install a wind turbine. And I can't find out that he has a big ass crane, and I know he needs one. And by the way, it's probably going to be a 6-day job, and it'll net you $145,000. Do you want me to put you two in touch? I haven't said anything about the brand.
Nothing.
Now, Texada happens to manage this, and it's like, well, yes, and by the way, I have 3 more of these permits if this one doesn't work out for you. And so I have delivered value independent of me asking for anything. And I'm not trying to write myself out of a box. I'm trying to target myself out of a box. And that's what a go-to-market engineer is.
That example blows me away, right? And I guess like one of the things you highlight though is the horizontal companies have a challenge in this, right? The vertical SaaS play is very, very clear. So how can this apply to the horizontal play?
You need to define your segments very well, and you need to pick. And so it's like, I was chatting with a revenue leader at Povio, and I think they're like a chatbot for like plumbers and automotive. And so they're a horizontal company. But they verticalize all of their motions. So it's like an SDR only chatted with automotive people, right? If you get Dick's Automotive on the line and you have to sell to Dick's Automotive and like Harry's Beauty Supplies, you're like, hey,
different conversation.
Different conversations. You're like, I'm working on the wrench, and it's like, so the problem is that horizontal companies, as you're trying to take this big block and go to market like agnostically.
100%.
And when you do that, And as you learn more about each of your customers, your knowledge fractures, not compounds.
Right.
And so by verticalizing a horizontal motion, your knowledge can compound.
Right.
And you learn things from the next customer, and the next customer, next customer. And suddenly you have the depth of knowledge to be able to take those conversations and use them as intelligence to provide interesting insights to your next customer that, by the way, your competitors don't have access to.
Love that. So instead of like how we typically go like SMB, mid-market, enterprise, you know, it can exist, but hey, your go-to-market motion should be verticalized so that when you're talking, like the TestBox case, we're talking to Gong, when we're talking to Outreach, we're talking to Apollo, we're talking to People AI, we are speaking that common language and we can reference, you know, those use cases, those wins, because it helps build our credibility.
Yeah, and it's much harder if you're B2B SaaS, selling into B2B SaaS, it's really harder because no B2B SaaS company is like any other B2B SaaS company. They're like it's unicorn is the perfect name, is like, but most of them aren't unicorns, but really they're just so different. And so, you need to figure out what unites them.
Right.
And in this case, you might not, like the example that you gave might not be exactly right, because you might actually say that the segment here, the most valuable segment, are brands that they completely lose if their demo isn't amazing. If their demo is the thing that closes.
Right.
And so the uniting factor might not be technology companies. It is the uniting factor is, where does a 10x demo experience make all the difference? And there are, you know, like for example, Gong might be a bad example because they got so much brand, people are like, just buy Gong. Right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, fair. But so you might think, where is it where where that middle experience really makes the difference, right? Where the reason that you buy, you're maybe in a commoditized market,
right? And
the only difference is that your sales process is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, love that. I want to shift gears a little bit. You know, you had talked about the three triangles that overlap in the middle, right? And I wish I had the visual right now. Just tell me, what was the center of that actually called? Was it
Systems of intelligence.
Systems of intelligence. Okay. We had talked about this earlier, right? And your methodology of, let's just say, the triangles with the system of intelligence in the middle. Can you describe what that means?
Sure. And I'll walk through the whole argument here.
Yeah.
But when I talked about the collapse of this disgusting middle, just pan up. Pan up. Yeah, cut from here. So when I talk about that large middle ground, right? I think that there's an imminent collapse of dealing with UX, of figuring out how to click things, about figuring out how to connect things. And so in order to be prepared for that collapse, there's a couple things that we need to do. One is we need to understand what the people on the ground are doing today.
Yeah.
And what is working at the ground level.
Right.
But the other thing is that we need to get what are the edges of a triangle called?
That's a good question.
Is vertices? Is it the vertices?
I don't know. Let's call it the vertices.
The vertices. Don't Google it. So the system of intelligence, you could think of like ChatGPT or Claude.
Okay.
And if you've ever created a project in Claude, actually ChatGPT has all of your historical knowledge from your conversations with it. So ask ChatGPT when you go home tonight, say, what do you know about me that I don't know about myself that would change my worldview?
Wow.
And ChatGPT will tell you some really, and I said, roast me. And it said, by the way, Jordan, Google Translate is not a form of diplomacy. Because I said, I'm going to Italy and I plan to learn no Italian. And ChatGPT is like, you busted.
Wow. Love that.
There's a system of intelligence in the center. And it's going to have context on who you are and what you are on your ICP and what you care about and all of the Gong calls. And so it's going to know your customer probably better than you do.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing that connects system of intelligence to each of the vertices is something like the MCP server, which is just a translation layer to talk to other tools. So, you know, model context protocol, you don't have to worry about it. Each of these vertices are important. On the bottom left, we have systems of record. This is your CRM. No one has a clean CRM today. If you take one thing away from this call, this recording, I've been on Zooms too much, get that clean. Just literally in the next 6 months, just make sure that all of your CRM data is clean, right? So systems of record. Then there are systems of information. And this is where there has been a dramatic underinvesting.
Okay.
And for TestBox, that might look like going and structuring all the data when people hire new what are the sales engineers, right?
Yeah.
So you need kind of this, and maybe it's in Snowflake, where you're like, this is my go-to-market data, right? I understand my entire market. I've done all that enrichment, and that lives and it's updated and it's sort of a living thing, right? And this is a different sort of set of work. And then there's a system of action. There's a tool like Clay, Make, Zapier, etc. And so the system of intelligence is going to be able to talk to our CRM data. It's going to talk to all of the go-to-market data that's in our Snowflake database. And then what it's going to do is it's going to operationalize that at kind of a row level. It will go execute that and say, is this right? Is this outcome the outcome that I am seeking? Because it knows you, it knows who you are, it knows your customer, right? And so the Jedi Masters of the CROs that will become the Jedi Masters are the ones that know what questions to ask and why, because when the systems are all connected, the most powerful person won't be the first chair violinist, it will be the conductor.
Wow. Ooh, okay, this is something you and I have talked about previously, right? And I want to get your perspective on what that Jedi CRO looks like, because I think you've got a really strong point of view of how this role shifts.
It's Kyle Norton. Kyle Norton is the Jedi CRO. Because I can ask him a question like, where is your data stored? And he's like, Snowflake. And I can ask him a question like, well, what data do you store today? And he can rattle me off that answer. And I say, well, why? He said, well, our customers have X, Y, or Z problem. And so the CRO of the future will interact with, I don't know, maybe 2 to 5 people on the team, and that's it. And they will be able to, and actually my friend Kevin, I forget his last name, but he's at Tebra, amazing. And he sees, he understands the orchestration that needs to happen, and he has an amazing team beneath him. But these are the leaders that can talk in great detail about their customers, and have a strategic vision for understanding who the next best customer is and why, and then working backwards from that to the system that will deploy it. And by the way, that working backwards piece is the thing that's shrinking.
Okay, you had mentioned, Kyle's great, right? Kyle, we've interviewed Kyle on this segment. Is he would interact with 2 to 5 people. Like, who are those people and why it's only 2 to 5?
Well, I think we're going to need a bullshit checker, like a QA person, right? Because what happens is that you vibe with these models and you iterate and you iterate, and then you're just exhausted. You're like, I can't look at this anymore, right? And you need someone that is not surfing the wave of the models. And the models the nice thing is the system intelligence will help with that, but you need someone that's going to look at it with a critical eye. We're going to need editors. And so I think Dario Amodei said this, is like, the next generation's best people will be those with a critical eye. And don't quote me on this and don't look it up. Turns out you can cite anyone as long as no one checks.
Exactly.
And if I get enough transcripts, ChatGPT will say that it's true.
That's true. It's totally true.
So really, it is going to be, they're going to need someone with discernment to figure out what is wrong, and to look at you're still going to want to have observability across this and say, okay, I know where the thing is failing. I know, and because these models are non-deterministic, which means that you submit a prompt and you can get a different answer submitting the same prompt. It's random. It's like, well, it's not totally random, but it's closer to random than deterministic systems, which are code, right? It's like, if this is the input, this is this X, Y, or Z output. So, and I don't mean to sort of dance around this, but really you're going to need someone that can audit that that piece of information. You're probably going to need some form of a storyteller that can help extract customer stories. And really the big challenge that I think people will find themselves in is, how do I narrow what I'm doing? Because the models will basically go out in every direction. And so you'll get this big blob that is kind of not what you want. And if you've read almost any text from large language models, they just feel blobby.
They do.
Because they don't have any great input data. So the CRO of the future is really going to have some people that have a taste, a sense for things. They're going to know their customer really well. And you probably will have some version of a database person or RevOps person that can manage the complexity of the whole system. but boy, it's not going to be what it is today.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. And I think that's where I want to spend a little bit more time discussing because, I've been having a lot of conversations with people who, are trying to say, hey, like, I know that there's a new go-to-market playbook. I know things are changing, but I don't know where to start, right? And as the CRO, I think, especially depending on the company size, a lot of middle management is going away. We're asking CROs to take on more roles and responsibilities. Like CRO is actually becoming more of an actual chief revenue officer than a glorified VP of sales, right? CMOs are becoming CROs. They're overseeing marketing. They're overseeing solutions. And so the role is expanding, right? And you have to understand the customer. Yet the skill set of someone who has to understand the entire customer journey and the entire customer experience is fairly different than a lot of times the forecasting culture that exists today, right? Do you have an opinion on how some of these CROs who maybe are fairly disconnected from the field, they're running, larger teams and they're pretty much running forecasting machine, could take their mindset and reshift to get down to the ground to have a point of view?
Well, I mean, I think what I would do is I would direct my teams to give me information inside of a large language model. So that means like, yo, go down, like, and this is pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
Tell your RevOps team, go download every call we've ever had that is like X, Y, or Z and put it in a text file for me. Gemini can take 1 million tokens, which is just an ungodly amount of information.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So just start there. Go to Gemini AI Studio. It doesn't train on your data if you have a Google Suite package. Paste all that in and say, tell me about my customers.
Wow.
What are they saying? What are they?
Right.
And so really, you can have your team bring information to you and start playing around these large language models. And just kind of recognize that you need, in order to have a structured worldview about where you go, you need to be able to understand what the models are great at and what they aren't good at. And you need to come back to the question of, with perfect information, what would my customers or my prospects want at any given moment? And why am I uniquely capable to deliver that to them?
Wow.
And don't worry about the systems or how it happens and play with that information. And you can have conversations with the transcripts, right? Take your customers, your prospects' words and say, what are they hungering for? What would, if they had perfect information, if they had all of our knowledge, all of our internal knowledge, all external knowledge, what would they want to know?
Right.
What would be valuable to them? And if you can answer that question and you spend a lot of time just literally talking with ChatGPT, you're going to kind of understand the possibilities here. And you also are going to start to understand your customers.
Yeah.
And those are the two things that, if you can combine them, you're ready for, and this just takes a while. Have you seen Arrival, this movie Arrival?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
So the concept of Arrival is, and spoilers, just like don't watch, just like so Amy Adams is a language scientist, and she has to translate this brand new language.
Okay.
And it turns out that learning the language itself allows you to travel through time. And so she actually can see the future, and she uses information of the future to impact the present.
Okay.
And the large language models are kind of like that, which is, as you start to chat with them, you start to become really good at distilling a large amount of garbage and understanding that's good, bad, good, bad, bad. And that is the skill set that will make you a better editor. And I don't know, almost every week, I'm like, it can do that?
Yeah.
I chat with these things more than people. I mean, this is actually already too long. I got to go chat. I got a ChatGPT. I got a ChatGPT interview. Yeah. So, and I learn things, I'm like, oh, wow, it can do that. And so for the first time, the interface is not the limitation. The person on the other side of the interface is.
Wow.
And that text box is incredibly intimidating for me too. I mean, and it's just like, I'm not asking better questions. And so that is the skill set that they should literally start chatting with the models.
Incredible. Jordan, this has been an amazing conversation, like fascinating. There's so many things for people to take from this conversation. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
it's been good.
And maybe I should do a Chris Walker where I look slightly off camera. Just like do one Chris Walker from every angle.
That would be a perfect way to end the episode. So thanks for your time, Jordan. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks.